my name is Irene and I would like to welcome you to my channel. I'll talk about my opinions on books and hopefully I can give you a few good recommendations. Before I start, I would just like to ask you to please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. So, I have not uploaded in a few months. I have had a really rough year, like a lot of other people. It is not just because of the pandemic. A lot of other things happened too that weren't good and made me lose my motivation for doing my channel. I'm not going to get into it because it's a lot. But I am really trying to get back into it. I am not going to be down on myself if I can't start doing this every week, but I am going to try to at least upload, my wrap-ups and stuff like that, because I think it's fun to talk about books and I want to have this. It just has been difficult to do it recently, so but now I'm in a better mind space and I really think that I'm going to try to get back into it. And before getting back into it, I feel like I won't feel good about getting back into this until I talk about the books I have read in between. My last wrap-up was in January and it is the end of April. So I want to talk about the books I read in February and March, and then I will make another wrap-up next week talking about the books I read in April, which isn't that many. But in February and March I have 14 books that I have read, and I just want to talk about them really quickly just to update you on what I have read this year so far that you guys missed out on. Not that I have anybody watching these videos, but I'm just kind of doing this for myself because I'll feel better talking about books that I miss talking about. As usual, I am going to go from my least favorites. Well, not my least favorites, but start with my 3 stars and 4 stars and 5 stars. I don't have any 2 stars or 1 stars. So, starting off, I read The Toll, which is 3 stars. And this was very disappointing to me, which is sad because I really enjoyed the first book and the second book was pretty good. But the third book, The Toll, was just added a lot of characters that I didn't care about, and I did not like the ending. I thought the ending was the way that they resolved the issue of the overpopulation, because this whole series was about how the world's overpopulated, so people have to kill each other to keep it even and be able to have this kind of perfect world that doesn't have any problems besides for overpopulation. So they, have these people who kill them to keep population under control. So the way they resolved it in the end for this population problem, I just wasn't really a fan of, and all the extra characters. And I think my favorite part of the story was the Thunderhead and how it was like this all-knowing thing that was like a computer, and I thought that was really interesting. But other than that, I wasn't really a fan of everything else, so I only gave it 3 stars. I was just a bit disappointed by it, but it was enjoyable. I didn't hate it. It just wasn't what I wanted it to be. Then I read The Library of the Unwritten, which is 3 stars. Now, this book was very hyped for me, and it sounded so cool, about this library in hell with all books that have that are unwritten, that authors never got to finish, and then a character escapes the book. And I really enjoyed that part, like the beginning part. I thought that was really interesting, and I wish it delved deeper into that, into the characters in the books escaping and becoming, and then going up into the world and like meeting their authors. I thought that would be really cool, but it came more of this like demons and like angels and all of that, and that just wasn't as interesting to me. So I thought it had a really good concept in the book, but I didn't really like what the book came about. I thought it became into something that wasn't as interesting to me, so I didn't really enjoy it. So 3 stars. And then I read They Do Miracles, which is 3 stars. And this book I read because of the pandemic that's going on right now. I thought, because They Do Miracles is a dystopian book about where where like the sun really kind of hurts the people to a point of where people are starting to get really sick and stuff, and it's like that dystopian of where the world's kind of really, you know, going crazy and stuff. So I kind of wanted like that kind of feel in a book because of what's going on now. And it was good. There was nothing really to complain about. There was a really cute romance, and then like the family issues were interesting. There's not much to talk like bad to talk about it, but there's not much good to talk about it. I've read a lot of better dystopian books, and this one just wasn't that memorable. I really do like dystopian, so I thought it was interesting and how the world was changing and how people were reacting to it. I thought that was really fascinating. But as for everything else, I didn't really enjoy it that much. So then also I read The Wallflower Wager. Now this is a smutty romance, and I really love this author, Tessa Dare. But I have read so many books of her books at this point that all of the characters are seeming to become too much alike, and the male characters are becoming too much alike. In this one, I didn't really connect to the situation as much of this woman who is kind of forced to get rid of her animals because of her next door neighbor, and then of course they have this little romance, and I just didn't really I didn't really enjoy as much as I thought I would, because they kind of, their ideas about being rich and poor and all of that and having issues, and I just didn't really connect with how their views on that. It kind of irritated me how they thought about that kind of stuff, and it just wasn't as good, and I felt like the characters weren't anything unique or interesting. So unfortunately I gave it 3 stars, but it was still an enjoyable read. I feel like those books are just fun to just read. Then I have read Queen of Shadows. Now this, I'm not sure what number this is in the Thorn and Glass series. I think it's 4. I decided enough after this book. I do not like the direction this series is going into. I find myself, while reading this series, really bored, which isn't a good thing. I'm just so bored reading it, and it really sucks because I really, find the ideas of these fays and the assassins and all of that really interesting, but they just keep adding characters I don't care about, and they keep adding elements to the world where I don't care about as much, and the things that I love most about the series, like the character relationships, just like are like spreading apart and not becoming like aren't becoming something more. So it's just like I just don't like it. So I decided enough this series. I just didn't like the direction it was going into, and it sucks because I really enjoyed the first book, but I think that's just how Sarah J. Maas is as an author for me, is that she, you know, I've read a series of hers before, and it just, as it goes on, it starts off so strong, but as it goes on, it's just like turns into something that I don't really care about. So it really sucks, but yeah, I'm not going to be finishing on this series, and I did give this book 3 stars, and it was probably enjoyment level less than that, but I had to give credit for how well, you know, the world is developed and stuff. The next 3 books I want to talk about is the Cirque de Freak series, which is 6, 7, and 8. So I'm going to hold it. So this is 6, The Vampire Prince. So, this I gave 4 stars. The 7th book I gave 3 stars. And the 8th book I gave 4 stars. Now this series is really fun. I really enjoy it. This book I really enjoyed because I feel like it kind of, like, each book isn't really feel like a full book. It feels like a part of a book, like, to get from one situation to another. I feel like normal books, like, if this was, like, an YA series or adult series, like, several books would be put together, you know, because this just feels like a part of a book, you know what I mean? But this I really enjoyed. I didn't really expect the series to go in the direction that's going into, but it's not really a bad thing. And then the 7th book was 3 stars, and I didn't really enjoy that. It felt like nothing happened in that book. Yeah, nothing really happened in that book. So I give it 3 stars. Not because it was bad, just because it was boring. And then the 8th book I really enjoyed because because old characters are coming back. And it's all like connecting together, and that's a lot of fun to me. I really like how everyone's coming back together. Because I've really I've really connected to these characters over, 8 books. I think I'm currently reading the 9th, and I really feel for them. And I mean, each of these are short, but that's a lot of books to really get to know people, and it's really great. It's about like this half vampire and all the issues he ends up with, and I can't really say more than that because it's spoilers because I'm so far in, but it's a really fun series. It's a really fun series and great audiobooks. I love the audiobooks. So I'm going to continue on with talking about my 4-star books. So I read Storm of Swords, which is the 3rd Game of Thrones book? Yeah, 3rd. And I loved it. So the first book, Game of Thrones, was amazing. I loved it. Second book, I was really bored during it. I didn't enjoy it that much. This book, so much happened. I loved it. I feel like his books are so good when he has a lot happen in it. Because I feel like sometimes like the in-between books are just fillers before you get to like the really good stuff. And the really good stuff happened in this one. It was almost 5 stars, but I felt like it wasn't as good as the first one to that level, but it was so good. So much crazy stuff happened. It probably deserves 5 stars, but I really loved it. It was so good. So good. The things that happened in this. I just, and I watched the series, so I kind of knew it was going to happen, but still, it was like, during those parts, I was like, oh my gosh, and then things like kept coming after each other, and it kept getting crazier and crazier and crazier, and I love the Song of Ice and Fire series. It is so much fun to read, so yeah, and I really am interested and love the characters and the world and all of that, and it's just so much fun. Then I have the Dragon Reborn. The Dragon Reborn is the 3rd book in the Wheel of Time series. Yes, and I am finding myself a lot more connected to these characters. I'm getting more into this world and understanding the world. I'm getting more involved emotionally in the story, and I love it. I don't think it's 4 stars, so it's not as good as the first book. But I am really having fun with it, and I can't wait to get deeper involved and to the point, because there's a lot of things I still don't think I fully understand, but I feel like as the series goes on, I'm going to start fully understanding and like the whole picture of everything, hopefully. And I feel like I really understand what was happening and going on in this book, so I really had fun, and I really am excited to continue on with this 14-book series. It's going to take forever to get through, but I'm excited for the journey. The next 4-star book I'm going to talk about is Therithmatist. Now, this is a Brandon Sanderson book, and Brandon Sanderson is my favorite author. This book, though, is probably the least favorite of all the books. It is middle grade, and it's kind of has these like, it's like it's a very interesting magic system of where they like draw chalk drawings on the ground, and then they can like kind of battle each other with it, and it's kind of also this murder mystery thing, and I found that part of the book not as interesting. But the magic system and stuff was interesting, and like the characters weren't as great as other Brandon Sanderson characters, but I still enjoyed them. And I just found the magic system really interesting, and there's not really the world isn't that much because they're just kind of at the school, but I still really liked it. It was, it was a 4-star read. So I had fun reading it. I really did. It was a good book. It wasn't my favorite of Brandon Sanderson, so it was a little bit disappointing because I've, fallen in love with all of his other books, and I didn't really fall in love with this one, but it was still good. It was still really good and very well done and well written. So I do recommend it, but before going in, I would just consider that it is a middle grade series, so it does seem a bit younger. Then I read The Ocean at the End of the Lane, which is 4 stars. This book is really weird. It's really weird. I really enjoyed it. But it's just really weird. It's really, I don't even know how to explain what it's about, but it follows a young main character, and he kind of, in this other, and there's this other, I'm going to explain this so badly, and there's like this other magical world that he can kind of go into. It's not really a big part of the story, and then he brings something back to it, and it really influences his life, and a lot of weird things happen. It's just, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I've read a lot of books, and this is probably not the weirdest, but one of the weirdest, I would say. And I don't know what exactly would be considered a spoiler to talk about. I was very interested in it though. I just wanted to see what was going to happen next. It was a fun read. But I didn't really care for any of the characters because the characters weren't all the best. And it kind of has like that feel of like a creepy house, and you feel like a bunch of crazy stuff is happening and no one else really sees it. And yeah, definitely an adult book though. It has a very adult themes, and kind of gross things happen that I don't really like. But yeah, I had fun. But it's not one of my favorites. I don't know if I'll read more Neil Gaiman, because I don't know how I feel about it, but it was enjoyable, so I don't know. It's hard to say how I feel about this book. Then Sun, which is the 4th book in the Giver Quartet, and I loved it. I feel like the first book I loved in the Giver Quartet, then the second 2 books I was like, they were alright. I didn't really enjoy them though. And then the 4th book, everything wrapped together, and I think the reason I enjoyed it so much is because it went back to like the original society that happened in The Giver. So it was like, so it showed that, but in a different perspective. And I don't know exactly what will be spoilers because it's the 4th book in the series. But I feel like if you read the 1st book and the 4th book, then you'll get the whole thing. You'll get like a full story. Like, you don't need to read the 2nd and 3rd book, But the 4th book, I feel like everything wrapped together so nicely, and you really saw everything happen in a different perspective, and I thought that was brilliant. So, I don't know if I said this, but I'm talking about my 5-star read now. Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was really good way to end the series. I just wish I feel like this would be one of my favorite series if it was like a duology instead of a quartet. But yeah, I thought it came together so well, and I love the characters so much, and it was great. And the last book I am going to talk about is Mockingjay, and I don't really have much to say about this. This is one of my favorite series. The Hunger Games, and I just reread this book, and I read this in a day, and that was fun. So yeah, I loved it. I'm not a Mockingjay hater. Everyone usually hates the third book, but I really enjoyed it. So it was fun. I don't have much to say because it's just one of my favorite series, and I just reread it. And I read that book in a day because I was challenging myself. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And I'm going to be making more videos, hopefully. My next video will probably be my April wrap-up. I haven't read much this month because I was really sick. But I'm still going to talk about the books that I read. And I will see you next time. My Goodreads is always linked below if you want to see my spoiler thoughts on all of these books. And I'll see you next time.